Echo of Freedom. Chapter 1, Ash and Whisper. The world didn't die with a bang. It died with the whisper of falling dust, the creak of twisted metal, and the quiet moan of the last free souls. And then he came. At first, they called him the Savior, then the Protector, and soon, only the Dictator. His name, having devoured his old one, pierced every soul like a sharp shard of reality. In this new world he built on the ruins of the old, there was no room for doubt, no room for whispers, no room for a life that didn't serve him. A boy named Kai was only 6 years old when this new world swallowed his family. He remembered only a flash, a rumble, and then, an unnatural silence, broken by a strange, sharp voice barking orders. His mother, so warm and smelling of homemade bread, tried to shield him with her body, but it was no use. His father, whose hands were strong and voice deep and calming, only managed to whisper, "Live, son. Live." And then they were gone. Their bodies lay on the cold ground, and Kai, hidden beneath the rubble of their destroyed home, could only tremble and swallow tears mixed with dust. Night fell swiftly. The cold crept under his clothes, and hunger gnawed at his stomach. Kai didn't know where to go, what to do. Around him were only ruins and shadows, making his heart pound like a trapped bird. He crawled, stumbled, fell, until he bumped into something soft and warm. It was an old, worn blanket, half buried in debris. Beneath it, curled up, slept a man. "Hey, kid, what's wrong?" The voice was hoarse but not unkind. Kai looked up. Before him sat an old man with a gray beard and eyes that reflected the glint of distant fires. His name was Mart. He was one of those who had survived, who knew how to hide, who knew how to read the signs on a dusty road. They're gone," Kai whispered, and a fresh wave of grief overwhelmed him. Mart said nothing, just offered the boy a piece of stale bread and a dirty canteen of water. He didn't ask questions, didn't offer false comforts. He simply was there. And that was enough. Thus began years of wandering. Mart became everything to Kai: father, teacher, mentor. He taught Kai to distinguish edible plants from poisonous ones, to move silently in the night, to understand the language of beasts and birds. He showed him how to salvage old machines for working parts, how to fix what seemed hopelessly broken. And most importantly, he taught him to think. To think about what was happening around them, about why the world had become this way, and about what needed to change. "Remember, Kai," Mart often repeated, "the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, it's a thought. When people stop thinking, they become slaves. And when slaves start thinking, tyranny crumbles." Sometimes they came across other survivors. Some they avoided, sensing danger. Others were like them, frightened, exhausted, but with a spark of hope in their eyes. With some, they shared food and shelter, and these brief encounters left a warm mark on Kai's soul. But most often, they encountered the Dictator's soldiers. These men, clad in identical gray uniforms, with cold, lifeless eyes, were the embodiment of his will. They sought, they found, they killed. Ruthlessly. Unconditionally. And each time Kai saw them, a flicker of hatred ignited within him, growing stronger with each passing year. One day, when Kai was 15, they fell into an ambush. It happened on the outskirts of one of those half-ruined cities, now fully controlled by the regime and called order zones. They were trying to find supplies when two soldiers sprang from around a corner. "Stop! Hands up!" one of them shouted. Mart assessed the situation instantly. He was old, but quick. "Run, Kai! Run!" he yelled, pushing Kai toward an alleyway. Kai hesitated. He couldn't leave Mart. "No! I won't leave you! Fool! Run! I'll hold them off!" Mart pulled an old, rusty knife from his belt. It was reckless. The soldiers had rifles. Kai knew Mart was doomed. But he also knew that if he stayed, they both were. With a heavy heart, with fire in his chest, Kai ran. He heard gunshots, shouts, and then, silence. A heavy, oppressive silence that said everything. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees in the dust, and the tears he had held back for so long streamed down his face. Mart, his only remaining family, was dead. And he was killed by the dictator's soldiers. That day, lying in the dust, Kai made a vow. A vow that became the purpose of his life. He swore he would avenge them. Avenge his parents, Mart, and all those the dictator had killed. He swore he would bring freedom back to the people. Chapter 2: The Whisper of Resistance. The years after Mart's death were filled with solitude and endless training. Kai became a ghost. He infiltrated the most heavily guarded zones, studied the soldiers' movements, their weaknesses. He learned how to pick locks, bypass alarms, and move so silently that no one noticed him. He became a master of stealth and survival. His goal was clear: to find those who shared his hatred for the dictator. He knew they were out there. He felt their presence in every whisper, in every casually spoken word, in every look full of despair. His search led him to the underground catacombs beneath one of the former major cities, now fully controlled by the regime. There, in a labyrinth of tunnels and abandoned shelters, he finally found them. A small group of people who, like him, refused to bow their heads. They called themselves Echo. The first meeting was tense. Kai emerged from the shadows like a wraith. His sharp gaze swept over the faces of the people, trying to read sincerity in them. "Who are you and what do you want?" asked a stern man with a scar across his cheek. His name was Vector, and he was the group's unofficial leader. "I'm looking for people like you," Kai replied, his voice low and steady. "Those who refuse to live on their knees." Vector studied him. "Many say that. And then give up at the first obstacle. My parents died at the dictator's hands. My mentor was killed by them. I won't give up." Vector nodded. Something in his eyes shifted. He saw determination, he saw pain, he saw the fire that burned in Kai's soul. And so, Kai joined Echo. He quickly proved his worth. His knowledge of security systems, his stealth skills, and his fearlessness were invaluable. He planned raids on the dictator's supply depots, freed prisoners, and relayed messages between scattered resistance cells. Among Echo, Kai found not only comrades but also friends. He grew especially close to two of them, Lyra and Beast. Lyra was a fragile-looking girl with a sharp mind and incredible knowledge of electronics. She could hack any system, intercept any message. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, her eyes glowing with focus. Beast, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. A huge, muscular man with a kind heart and incredible strength. He was indispensable in combat but possessed surprising sensitivity, always noticing when Kai was lost in his dark thoughts. "Kai, you're off in the clouds again," Lyra said one day as they worked on hacking a communication system. "What are you thinking about?" Kai sighed. "About how many more people have to die before we can change anything." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't think about that. Think about what we can do now. Every small action brings us closer to victory." "She's right, brother," Beast rumbled, wiping his massive knife. "Better focus on the task. The revenge, that'll come later." Gradually, Kai began to take on more and more responsibility. His ideas were bold, his plans daring. He started to see not just individual actions, but an overall strategy. And the more he acted, the more people joined them. The whisper of resistance grew louder and louder. Chapter 3: The Dictator's Shadow. The Dictator, whose real name had long been forgotten, ruled with an iron fist. His regime, called the Order of Order, was built on fear and total control. Every thought, every word, every step was monitored. Those who dared to resist disappeared without a trace. His headquarters were in a former government building, now transformed into an impregnable fortress. High walls, machine gun nests, patrols, cybernetic guards, all created an illusion of absolute security. But Kai knew that nothing was truly secure. "We must strike at the heart of the serpent," Kai said at a meeting attended by the leaders of all the cells. "As long as the Dictator lives, he will continue to strangle this world." Vector shook his head. "That's suicide, Kai. His fortress is impenetrable. We don't have the forces." "Force isn't just about the number of soldiers, Vector. It's also about will. We can break his will if we strike where he feels most protected." Lyra presented a plan. "We can overload his communication system, creating false targets and diverting his main forces. Then Kai and the strike team can infiltrate." "And then what?" asked one of the leaders. "Thousands of soldiers await him inside. We won't fight everyone. We'll find a path to the Dictator himself. And there we'll end this war." Kai's gaze was cold and resolute. Everyone understood that this was a one-way ticket. But in their eyes, a fire burned that no army could extinguish. It was a fire of despair mixed with the last flicker of hope. Preparation took months. They gathered information, trained, honed their skills. Every step, every action was meticulously planned. "Are you ready for this, Kai?" Vector asked the night before the operation. "I've waited my whole life for this, Vector. I was born for this. Don't forget why we're doing this. Not for revenge. For freedom." Kai nodded. He knew. Revenge was just a catalyst. The true goal was much grander. Chapter 4: The Breach. The night was moonless, perfectly suited for their operation. Kai's team, himself, Lyra, Beast, and several other experienced fighters, moved silently, like shadows, through the ruined streets leading to the Dictator's fortress. At the same time, Lyra, sitting in the underground headquarters, began her work. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, and soon fake messages, orders, and disinformation began to spread throughout the dictator's network. Communication systems overloaded, causing chaos and panic among the soldiers. "They're taking the bait." Lyra's voice came through Kai's earpiece. "The dictator's main forces are being diverted to false targets." "Excellent, Lyra. Keep it up," Kai replied. They reached the perimeter. The first guards were taken down silently and efficiently. Kai moved ahead, his eyes picking out every shadow, every rustle. He knew every nook and cranny of this fortress, every passage, every trap. He had studied it for years. "Beast, you cover the rear. Lyra, you're our brain. Everyone else, follow me," Kai whispered. They infiltrated through a wastewater system that Kai had discovered years ago. The stench and darkness were their allies. They crawled through narrow pipes until they emerged in the fortress's basement. "Next, according to plan," Kai whispered. They moved silently through the corridors, avoiding patrols. At times, they had to engage in short, brutal skirmishes, but they acted quickly and mercilessly. For them, this wasn't just a mission, it was a war for their future. Finally, they reached the main elevator leading directly to the dictator's private chambers. Lyra, remotely, disabled the surveillance cameras in that section. "All clear, Kai." "Good luck," she said. "Thanks, Lyra. Talk to you soon." The elevator doors opened. Beyond them was the dictator. Chapter 5, Reckoning. Kai expected to see a monster, a fiend. But instead, before him stood a man. Elderly, with a wrinkled face and piercing eyes that held years of power and solitude. He sat in a chair at a massive desk, covered with maps and holograms. "I've been expecting you, Kai." The dictator's voice was weary, but still held a steel edge. "I knew you would come, sooner or later." "You destroyed my world," Kai said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You killed my parents. You killed Mart. You killed millions." The dictator slowly stood. "I didn't kill. I brought order. This world was chaos, and I brought it stability. At a cost, yes, but stability. At what cost? The cost of freedom? The cost of lives?" Beast stepped forward, his massive frame looming over the dictator. "You don't understand. You only see what you want to see. This world was doomed. I saved it from itself. You only drove it into a prison." Lyra exclaimed, appearing on a screen she had connected to the dictator's surveillance system. The dictator sneered. "Do you think by overthrowing me, you'll bring peace? Chaos will return. People don't know how to live without a strong hand." "We will learn," Kai responded. "We will build a new world. Without your order, without your tyranny." The dictator looked at Kai. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Recognition? "You are strong, boy. Stronger than I thought. But you are making a mistake. It's our mistake, and we will live with it or die for it. But it will be our choice," Kai said. The dictator's soldiers finally reached the chambers, but it was already too late. Beast and the other fighters prepared for battle. "Stop," Kai commanded sharply. This is between him and me." The dictator smirked. "Very well, boy. If that's what you want." He pulled a small, but sharp knife from his belt. Kai didn't hesitate. He lunged forward. Their struggle was short and brutal. The dictator was old but possessed unexpected strength and cunning. He struck, he stabbed, trying to wound Kai. But Kai was faster, his movements were honed by years of training, years of hatred. In the end, Kai pinned the dictator against the wall. His hand gripped the hilt of his knife. "Say your last words, tyrant," Kai whispered. The dictator looked at him, and in his eyes was something Kai couldn't decipher. Perhaps he saw a reflection of himself, just as lonely and obsessed with his purpose. "The world needs order," the dictator croaked, and his eyes glazed over. Kai's knife found its mark. The dictator slumped to the floor. Silence fell. The soldiers standing in the doorway looked at their fallen leader with expressions of shock and incomprehension. Their world had crumbled with him. Kai slowly straightened. He felt emptiness, but also a certain relief. The war wasn't over, but its main obstacle had been removed. "You are free," he said to the soldiers, his voice echoing in the room. "The dictator is no more." Chapter 6: Dawn of a New World. After the dictator's death, chaos could have engulfed the world. But it didn't happen. Kai and the leaders of Echo acted quickly and decisively. They addressed the people, promising freedom, justice, and a new world built on respect for everyone. The first days were hard. Old habits, fear, mistrust, all hindered progress. But Kai, now not just a resistance leader but a symbol of hope, didn't give up. He spoke before crowds, his voice, initially uncertain, grew stronger and more convincing. "We don't promise an easy life," he said. "We promise a struggle. A struggle for each of us to decide our own destiny. We will build a new world not on the ruins of the old, but on the foundations of freedom, equality, and respect. We will do this together." Lyra, with her incredible abilities, helped restore communication between cities, establish infrastructure. Beast, with his strength and wisdom, led units that helped clear cities of the war's aftermath, organizing food and medicine deliveries. Vector, with his wisdom and experience, became Kai's advisor. Of course, there were still those who tried to restore the old order, those who craved power. But they were few, and they quickly met with the resistance of the unified people. Years passed. Kai didn't become a new dictator. He became a leader who helped people build their own future. He saw new settlements rise from the ruins, how people began to trust each other, how children laughed without fear. One day, sitting on a hilltop overlooking blooming fields that were once a scorched desert, Kai reflected. Lyra and Beast sat beside him. "We did it," Lyra whispered. "We really did it." Beast nodded, his face serene. "Mart would be proud of you, Kai." Kai smiled. He remembered Mart's words, "The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, it's a thought. When people stop thinking, they become slaves. And when slaves start thinking, tyranny crumbles." Their thoughts had awakened. And tyranny had crumbled. The sun slowly set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was the dawn of a new world. A world that was forged on ruins, but which was now full of hope. A world where the echo of freedom sounded louder than ever. And Kai knew this was just the beginning. Their struggle would continue, but now it would be a struggle for creation, not destruction. And that was what truly mattered.